Now, in case you haven't noticed by looking at the calendar, Christmas is on its way, so it's a great time to make some Christmas decorations. And in this video, I'll show you how to use your laser to make this particular decoration, and the best thing about this one is it lights up. So let's get started. How's it going, everybody? Steve here, and welcome to the shop. Now, if this is the first time you're watching a video on this channel, or maybe you're one of those stealth viewers who watches but never subscribes, do me a favor and click that subscribe button down there. It really helps out the channel and gets it spread to more people. And with that out of the way, we can get going on our Christmas decoration here. And as I mentioned, my wife said she wanted a special Christmas decoration this year to hang outside, and she couldn't find anything close at the local hardware store, so she described it to me, and I listened diligently, of course, because that's what good husbands do. And I said, sure, I can just whip one of those up in my shop, and off I went. So in this video, I'm going to show you how I made this decoration. I used my 3624 CO2 laser. It's a 90 watt. So the diameter of the circle here is about 22.5 inches, and it's made out of 1/4 inch plywood, 6mm plywood. So if you have a laser that big, then you can just make one this large. But if you have maybe a diode laser, now I'd recommend a 10 or 20 watt if you have them and you want to cut something this thick, or you have even a 40 watt CO2 laser, you can make this. You may have to scale it down depending on the footprint of your workspace or the power of your laser. You may have to go to thinner material, but any laser can make this, anything that can cut. So for the rest of the video here, I'll walk you through the steps. We'll go through a quick design with Inkscape, and then I'll cut everything out and paint it and glue it together, wire up all of the LEDs that I bought off of Amazon, and turn it on. And when you're done, it will look something like that. So with that, let's get going here with the design. All right, so here we are in Inkscape. Now I'm not going to go into horrendous detail here on how I created this. Suffice it to say, I lifted a lot of this from Google Images. So I found a Santa sleigh, I found some a reindeer and replicated them 3 times, and then just drew a freehand line down below here to represent the reins. And I selected all of this, and in Inkscape I used the Path Union tool and made it one. So in this case, Santa Claus is all one piece. I could move it around if I wanted to. And I did the same thing for the town, and the words, I just typed the words and found a font that looked okay. Then I put each of these on a separate layer. So I have the Santa layer, I have the words layer, I have the town layer, and the background, of course, is just the circle in the back. Now the background has just random holes for diodes to go into, as well as 2 holes in the top. Now when you look at my design on the wall here, you'll see 3 holes at the top. That's because I screwed up. And I really needed to put 2 holes rather than 1 in the center, just because the wind will blow it around too much. So you'll see that, and once I cut it out, the holes here are, in my case, I used 5mm diodes. So the holes here are about 4.95. It allows for a bit of curve. They're not tight going into these holes when you put the LEDs in, but they're tight enough that they won't just flop out. It gives you time to get them glued. I just used hot melt glue for the back, and I'll show you that later. Anyway, that's the design. You can create one of these yourself. It's really simple. So again, just piece a bunch of things together and then union them so that it becomes a single image. So that's it. And then I fired it all off to the laser and cut her out. All right, so I got all the laser cut pieces done and painted the front side of them, selected colors as you saw in the original here. The next thing to do before I glue everything together is to insert the LEDs into the background. That's the big round piece, and all I'm doing is inserting them into the holes. Now I did put extra holes in here, and I'll explain those in a bit, because I was going to put additional LEDs in, and I decided not to in the end because it didn't look good. But all I did was insert them here, and now I'm ready to glue them. And all I did to glue them was take my hot melt glue gun and put a blob of goo at the base of every LED, making sure it makes contact with the wood, and that was it. And now we're ready to do some soldering. And as I mentioned, you will need some basic soldering experience. At least you'll need a soldering iron. And all I did here was solder all of the red wires together and all of the black wires together. Now you may not be able to do this in one single solder connection, but as long as all the reds and blacks are together. And then I soldered just a piece of, I used polarized lamp cord, so it's black cable and one conductor has a red stripe on it and the other doesn't. And I soldered obviously the red stripe to the red wires and the black to the black, and completed a circuit. And I plugged it all in to try it out, and everything worked fine. And now we're ready to glue everything up here. Now you'll see in my Santa here, I put some little posts in behind the reindeer and the sleigh. The intent was to put some LEDs behind it and light it up from behind. But I found in the dark, it just made a black hole there, so it didn't actually look that good. So while you'll see me do it here in the video, right after I got this glued down, I tore it off and just mounted it flush. I pushed those LEDs back out of the background and disconnected them, and just made a Santa sleigh flat to the background, and it looked actually nicer when it was done. And now we're getting down to the final assembly here, and I used again some glue to glue the town onto the background and stuck the words on. Now for the words I used CA just because I didn't think I could get enough precision with hot melt glue on those tiny letters. And of course the last step there was to stick the dot on the I. So the last thing we need to do here before we can hang it up is put a rope on it. And I used 1/4-inch nylon rope because it's good and strong. Now you'll notice that I did have that center hole, and I just took a drill and drilled 2 additional holes beside it. I've now changed my diagram, of course, so that I don't do this again. And all I did was run the rope through and tie a knot in each end, and there you go. It's ready to hang up anywhere. So it's complete. And the best part of any project, of course, is we now get to sit back and appreciate our workmanship. And so a little flyover here, you can see it all came together quite nicely. It was really simple to put together. I just have it hung up on a hook here on the back of my pegboard. And my wife had a look at it and seems to be happy. So mission accomplished. All right, so there you go. You can see the design here was actually pretty easy. You can build one of these in an afternoon if you have a bit of Inkscape design skill. And if you don't want the LEDs, then obviously don't put any extra holes in the background to mount those LEDs. If you do, then I'd recommend using the LEDs that I chose, and I'll put a link down below. These LEDs are pre-wired with a current limiting resistor that will limit for 12-volt power operation, and it's a very simple case at that point of just putting them all into your board, connecting all the red wires together and all the black wires together, and using a piece of something like lamp cord and with a polarity indicator and you know, wire up the red wires and the black wires separately, and on the other end of the cord connected to a 12-volt power supply, and you're good to go. And I'll put a link to the power supply that I chose. Very little current draw here, so the cheapest power adapter you can find that's 12 volts should work. And that's the design. Now you can certainly design one of these yourself with Inkscape. As I mentioned, if you have any Inkscape skills at all and the ability to do a bit of searching on Google for some clip art, you can put one of these together in 20 minutes or half an hour. It doesn't take very much. If you don't want to build your own and you're a member of the channel, I'll send a link to download my exact design here, and you can just use that for your Christmas decorations. If you're not a member, consider it. It costs you $2.99 a month, and it will give you access to all of this and more. And with that, we can wind down here. As always, I'll put a video in the corner that you might be interested in. And otherwise, enjoy your holidays and get out there and make your world, and I'll see you next time.